Hello and welcome back. This is 10 albums I've bought over the years and that I regret and buying them that I shouldn't have bought them. Some of them are expensive and years ago I was more naive and just followed any recommendation coming from any specialized web page. And others are very cheap, and I thought, that I might score and they might sound good, but in the end, they turned out to be a fiasco. This is, of course, from my point of view. They may sound different on yours, so take it with a grain of salt, right? If they do sound great on your system, congratulations, but certainly not on mine. And as I'm not a selling guy, because I don't like the hassle of the packaging and the selling, and so I just leave them on the shelves, waiting for someone to snatch them or to make me a decent offer and take them away. Right, before we get on with it, don't forget to subscribe if you like my channel and give us a thumbs up. It's encouraging. Right, first one. This is Genesis, A Trick of the Tail. Well, I must say that I don't like the albums because of the way they sound, right? Obviously not because I don't like the content. The content is fantastic. This is a Japanese first pressing, right? In mint condition. I bought the UK a couple of years after it came out, and it sounded very thin, very bass lacking, so I thought I needed a better copy. So I read a lot about it, and a lot of connoisseurs recommend the Japanese first pressing, right? Which is this one. It's on very good vinyl, very quiet. The artifact is fantastic. I don't have the OB, but I really don't care much about that, as long as the sound is good and the jacket is decent, right? This is almost near mint. Now, this one doesn't sound much better than the UK. It's also thin sounding, is also bass lacking, and the better your gear is, the better your equipment is, the worse it sounds, at least on my system. And I realized that years later when I bought a German first pressing, which has everything this album does not have. Right? The German first pressing has bass, it has a bigger sound stage. It is very groovy. It's very dynamic, and it's fun to listen to and very enjoyable. So I do recommend you getting the first pressing and forget about this. This is very expensive and doesn't live up to its reputation, not at all. Right, second one, and this was a really expensive one. This is the Speaker's Corner's version of Elvis's Back, right? It's obviously in mid condition. I bought it new. And although I'm not a die-hard fan of the King, I think there's some albums that are worth having, right? Especially this one and from Elvis in Memphis. I had an original, a US original that sounded very good, but I wanted to improve on that. And sometimes when you do that, you really make mistakes. I know a lot of people like the way these albums sound, but to me, it sounds very artificial, unreal, and although you can feel Elvis in the room and you can hear almost every sound, which is amazing at first, then it becomes boring and is not engaging at all. And when you compare it to the original, you just don't play this one anymore. Just think about it before you splurge for this one. There are plenty of originals for very little money that sound really, really good. This one was a nightmare. I love Fleetwood Mac, both eras. when it was Peter Green's era, and then later with Rumours and all the pop hits. Right? I wanted a good copy of Then Play On, which is an album I adore. So I found this one for very little money. It's an English second pressing, and I thought, well, without any more information, a second pressing should sound nearly as good as the first pressing, but the thing is, it doesn't. This is cut very low. It sounds very distant. It is completely muffled, and I can't really, understand why a second pressing of these should sound so bad. But the thing is, I paid a lot of money because it's in very good condition. I'll show you. Here it is. It's almost in near mint condition. This is the UK second pressing. So, as I said, before going for one of these, make sure you do your homework. I didn't, and I made another mistake. I bought the this one, which is the Chris Bellman reissue that I know a lot of people like. Of course, I bought it new, and I don't. It sounds better than the UK second pressing, but it lacks a lot of presence. It lacks dynamics. It is not really crunchy. It is not really engaging. To me, it sounds artificial and boring. But as I said, a lot of people like it. So if this is your cup of tea, go ahead with it. But certainly not mine. Years later, I bought this reissue from MOV, I think, Music on Vinyl. This one sounds fantastic. The thing is that a lot of people know that. It's probably digitally sourced, but it sounds great. The thing is, word is spread, and prices for this one have gone through the roof, right? But if you find a decent copy for not much money, this is the one I would go for. Or get a German first pressing, right? Which is decent sounding, not very expensive. You see, this one is in near mint condition. Remember that this album has different track lists, right? On the US and on the UK, so you probably have to get 2 copies to get the whole set. Now, Supertramp, Crime of the Century. I've got like 6 or 7 copies of this album. And I just don't know why I've spent so much money on this album, because I've got the speaker scanner, which sounds great, and I've got a couple of Dutch pressings that sound fantastic, but I wanted a UK first pressing. So I bought this one, and I was deceived by the seller, never returned it. It's a UK pressing, but it's an Allen pressing. And Jesus Christ, this sounds so bad, right? I can't believe an album as well recorded as this one can sound these bad, right? The moment you play it on, you realize, well, this is not it, right? Any other copies you have are going to sound better. Remember, Master by Allen, right? I think this is the 5th, an A5 or an A6. You better check on Discogs. Next one, I learned the hard way. Elton John, Tumbleweed Connection. Paid a lot of money for this one. Well, for the second copy, not for this copy. I've had this copy for many years, right? It's very nice with a booklet. And this is a A3B4, right? That sounds really bad, right? Sorry to say, it sounds very distant. There's not a great instrument separation. It sounds veiled, muffled, and for many years I thought that it was, what the album sounded like. My mistake. When I did my homework, I got the A1B2, which is night and day difference. right? The A1, B2 sounds phenomenal, and that's the album you've got to splurge for, right? Save some money if you think it's expensive, but do get the UK first pressing. Nothing compares. Now, Van Morrison. Well, I had a European pressing that sounded very good, but I found this one for, I think it was €15 or £15, right? It's a reissue, and it was mastered by Steve Hoffman. So I thought, well, this is going to sound great, right? But the moment I played it, it sounded, I didn't like the mastering. It sounded very strange to me. Artificial again, and at the same time, it was. I think in some places it was mixed differently, and there's a loud tambourine there that is not in the original, right? So I played it for about 10 or 15 minutes, and it was enough. And then I turned to my original pressing, the European pressing, sorry, and it sounds very natural and very good. A lot of people will certainly disagree and love these Hoffman pressing, but certainly not me, and it costs some money nowadays. This is one of my favorite jazz albums. I think I've told you that before. Miles Davis, Lifted the Scaffold. I wanted a very good copy of these albums, but originals go for huge prices, right? And I wanted the mono version, so that will have to wait. So I saw this reissue. It's a mono limited edition, and there were great reviews about it. The first thing, it's warped, but just very slightly, so I didn't care much. And when I first played it, it sounded okay. But after 2, 3 or 4 listeners, it started to sound funny. There were lots of ticks and pops, and all I can tell is that the vinyl quality is atrocious. It sounds great for the first 2 plays, and then that's it, right? So I think I'll still have to keep looking for a better copy, because as I said, the music here is fantastic. Now, this happens when you try to save money, right? I love the Temptations, especially their 70s output, the 70s era. I got several albums, and I bought Psychedelic Shack because I think, it's one of my favorites, and I love most of the tracks here. This is a reissue that, again, a lot of people think that sounds great or as good as the original. No way. This sounds as bad as an MP3. It was brand new, it was expensive, and it doesn't live up to its reputation, right? If you want this album, do get an original. This is a waste of money. This is even worse. The Rolling Stones, Ghost Head Soup. This is the latest reissue. Now, the jacket is fantastic, of course, and the record is 180 grams, so the artifact looks amazing, right? Yes, but when you play it, it's just awful. I can't understand how they can put out things that sound so bad. Any CD sounds better than this. This sounds terrible. It sounds like an MP3. It's just, I don't know. People don't care about this anymore, right? So just don't buy an item because it's cheap, right? Because it's wasted money. I mean, I paid about 20 or 25, but it's a waste of money. You might as well get an early present. If you can't get a UK, well, get a German copy, a US copy, a European copy, and it's going to sound 10 times better than this. This was a real waste of money. And the last one for today, there was a blues collection that came out in the UK and Europe. I don't know about the States, right? With about 150 or about 160 albums covering, the best blues singers and their best recordings. So I thought, well, wow, they were cheap. I mean, the first one was $9.95, and from then on it was like 14 or 15. So I bought this one, which is a classic, right? The Muddy Waters Newport 1960. Great mistake. It sounds awful, right? The cover is good, the packaging is good, it's 180 gram, it's warped. All of the items I bought on this collections are warped, right, or have any other kinds of flaws. And, you know, I don't know why companies put out such, you know, this kind of material that, you know, people who listen to these albums usually have good setups and good gears, right? And they're going to realize that this sounds really bad, right? So try and get a decent copy of this album because it is a classic. But if you're thinking of getting the collection, forget about it. Right, and that's all I wanted to tell you about. I want to know your experiences. Which albums do you regret buying, right? And if you could turn back time, what purchases would you have done differently, right? Let me know your experience, because I'm sure most of you have got lots of albums on the shelves that they regret having bought. Thanks for your time. Thanks for listening. Take care.